from hell while I'm on earth burning. Always recognize that divine intervention, paying attention to the other dimension that runs deep in my spirit. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? God's talking to all of y'all. Can you hear it?
Peace and light, family. Welcome to another session of New Birth Energy podcast via Dark Matter Readings. I am your hostess, Majestica Melanin. Today is January 19th, 2019. And I am once again on the podcast. And I am excited to bring you more pertinent information, facts, and topics just concerning our journey, our liberation as melanated beings on the planet. And it is my honor to just be able to do this and to have fun doing this. And if I get 5 listeners, I will be grateful. So, if you are tuned in, please hit the like button now. Please hit the subscribe button now. And it seems that we are forgetting to keep in mind that, your likes and your comments and your subscriptions are very important to this journey as a podcaster. And it just shows me that I am making a difference out there in the technosphere and that people are interested in the topics that I am bringing. Please feel free to leave me a comment concerning any topics that you are interested in hearing or analyzing according to me. But nevertheless, I will always do my best to stay objective and open-minded about any topics that we cover. I like to be fair and impartial about different dynamics of these issues that we are currently facing in 2019. I know a lot of us are frustrated with the current government administration, and it just seems like they are ignoring us. There is a uprising going on. For those who do not know, of course, our media is censoring any kind of feedback from these other countries. I believe it's in London that they are uprising against their government. It reminds me of the situation with Occupy Wall Street and the different rebellions that were going on back in, I believe it was 2012, 2013, 14, somewhere around there, where we just began to understand what our government was actually doing during the housing crisis. And those of you who know me, I had to actually fight Bank of America to save my aunt's house. And that was just a process and a experience, that was sometimes unreal, and it was very frustrating, and it was just exhausting. So nevertheless, those kind of experiences that Americans are facing now are unfortunately showing their ugly heads today in 2019. And it's kind of like everything is boiling up, and we are at our peak right now as a country. The morality is very low. The divisiveness among human beings is just at a record low. And I know that, we are getting so frustrated without, being able to secure futures for our children, feeling just incomplete or uncertain about our futures and the legacies that we will leave behind, once we make that transition ourselves. So my goal here tonight on this podcast is just to reach out to everyone in 2019. This is our first podcast. And I've been just meditating on a lot of issues that's been going on in the world and kind of choosing which ones I want to touch on. I do, at the end of this podcast, want to definitely touch on just black love. Black love has not been properly given its context. A lot of our young melanated women are very confused about what it means to set standards and expectations. I don't even like to call them expectations, but more standards, because I have learned that setting high expectations really only sets you up for failure later, because sometimes we set those expectations so high, and when we don't meet them, or the person that we are dealing with does not meet those expectations that we have set, we oftentimes are very disappointed. We take it, to heart. We become emotionally distraught, and not realizing that you set those high expectations like years ago, and you made it up in your mind that, oh, my man needs to be this, he needs to have this much money, he needs to be educated, he needs to be tall, dark, and handsome, he can't be missing any mental mental capacity, he has to be intelligent. So we set all these things up, just from our young days, that when we begin to scope out a possible partner, and we oftentimes attract those people that we have subconsciously set these expectations for. So I want us as melanated romantics to understand, and this could be men and women, I want to speak to both, because there's an equal stage set here when we speak about relationships. And women are, yes, more emotional, it seems, but men are unemotional because we have already decided that they are not. And I have found that they are just as emotional as a woman. So those expectations become pressure if we set them too high, if we do not allow our partners to be who they are, to trust them for who they are, no matter what, no matter if we do not agree with them, no matter if we, want them to change. We have to accept the fact that either this person is going to compromise with me on things that I cannot tolerate, or you are going to accept the fact that this person is who they are, and you cannot change this person unless they want to be changed. And by you stressing out and you beating up on yourself emotionally concerning this other person's behavior, their treatment towards you, just some of the things that they do that you are bothered by, if you do not come to that understanding that, hey, this is the person that I met, this is the person that I have allowed into my world, my space, and now that I'm realizing that this is not the person who I expected, there's that word again, expectation. Now I'm mad at them, I'm angry with them, I don't want them around me, I hate them, I want to cause harm to them. And if you think about this logically, it absolutely makes no sense, because I am really certain that women are the people who make the decision to have sex. It's just the fact. And the fact that we choose also gives us the power to accept this person or not. And oftentimes we accept it and we sit in the relationship, and we think we're accepting them for who they are, but we're really not, because we're harboring all these um, anxious feelings. We're harboring all these resentments of even being with the person that we thought they were going to be or become. And so, in return, you are ultimately destroying your own emotional health. Your mental health is becoming distraught because you are now zoned into this other person so much that you can't even focus on your own behavior, your own goals, your own thinking. And when that happens, this is where you get the conflicts and you get the disruptions and the disconnect between the person that you say that you love and yourself, and becoming that power couple that you always dreamed about. And we have to understand, ladies, that when these things crumble in our hands, basically it's not meant for you. It's not meant for you. So the ultimate maturity level comes when you are strong enough to walk away from somebody that you love so much. And even just because you love that person does not make this person for you. We get so confused about this part right here about, oh, I've been with him for 10 years. Oh, I've dealt with him for on and off for 10 years. I can't see myself with someone else. You can't see yourself with someone else because you have not been open to that possibility. You have allowed yourself to stay stuck with this person who clearly is not serving you. You are not being fed spiritually, emotionally, mentally. These things are so important to not be unequally yoked in your relationships, guys. And I know I'm speaking about this sooner than later. I thought I was going to wait till the end, but I'm just going on. You guys know that how I do things. I just talk, and whatever comes, it comes. But I always have my notes so I can at least, stay on schedule, stay on each topic, make sure everything is covered. So, since I've been rambling a little bit for the past, 5 minutes, I want to go into the topics of this evening. And I want to touch on media manipulation. Okay, media manipulation. I touched on it a little bit in the last podcast, and just to review a little bit, about that last podcast quickly, because you can always go back and listen to it. It's more thorough, and you could better understand why I'm following up with this podcast in 2019. Just following up from that last podcast, and so that we can continue on our journey for enlightenment. I would like for our mentalities to transcend the mundane behaviors that are currently being splashed all over social media, cable networks, and everything. And I want us to really, really understand how potent the media is on our melanin as well as our neuromelanin. Okay, and if you have been following me, you know the difference between the two. You know that melanin is a substance, a chemical that reacts on its own. There is no control. Just like when you have to go to the restroom, you have no control over that anatomy of your body. Same with melanin, you cannot control it. So the output that is being received by our very physical makeup is uncontrolled. So if the output is affecting us, we must be aware of this, and I want to touch on that a little bit tonight. And I want us to just keep in mind that the things we listen to, the things we watch, the things we expose ourselves to, the language that we hear on a daily basis, the repetitive music, the repetitive statements or phrases that we constantly hear from the memes. And the memes are something very serious, guys. It's kind of like having another symbol taking over your consciousness. Nowadays, when we see these memes, we automatically just zone into them. We read them real quick. And we're not understanding that these memes are a whole nother entity that has been created. And whether the meme is true or not, we are more likely to read them and just soak it in without question, without critically thinking about what that meme is actually expressing. Sometimes people use the memes as jokes. So the meme, it gets away with being inaccurate. It gets away with being unfactual, based off of beliefs of individuals, not necessarily surrounded in truth. So we must also pay attention to the meme world. The meme entity is like what I want to call it, because they're just a body of their own. And if you pay attention, this is part of paying attention to the media manipulation that is currently happening to our kids. And we as parents and adults, we must put our foot down on this machine, this manipulative machine that actually, is taking over the minds and the behaviors of our next generation, and even the generation that I currently find myself in. You are not immune to this media manipulation. And I want to just give a few examples of how melanated people, families, children, youth, social media users who are being manipulated and not even aware that they are being manipulated. And one of the examples is the R. Kelly situation. Now, I know that you guys probably saw numerous videos on R. Kelly, and I'm not even here to speak about R. Kelly and his disturbing behavior. I just know that a lot of people are asking, well, why wasn't it brought up back in the day, 30 years ago? And all I can say to that is, I wasn't thinking about it personally because I was the age of Aaliyah. I was not thinking anything was, wrong. And you wouldn't at that age. You wouldn't think anything is wrong with dating an older man because that was like an in thing to do. Most high school girls were not dating the boys in the school. They were usually dating guys who had graduated, who were like 21, so it's like a natural attraction. The wrong comes in when, the older person knows that, this child is easily manipulated, easily guided, just easily led to do basically any and everything that they want them to do. And when you add the dynamics of money and fame, it even becomes even more difficult to deny an older man, or woman for that matter. So my thing with this R. Kelly situation is that, the women that came out are bothersome. My question is, who went and gathered all these women together in one roof and decided to collect their stories of mistreatment and abuse? And if the people that did gather these women up, what are their intentions and what do they benefit from this? I mean, we have to ask all the questions, guys. When I'm thinking about R. Kelly, I'm thinking about Bill Cosby. I'm thinking about, all the black men that have been basically lynched and put on a chopping block by media manipulation, by just the whole lynch mob scenario, where you put out a rumor, whether it's true or not, people will believe it. Next thing you know, if enough people believe it, it becomes facts, it becomes true. And this should warn us about the power of belief. If enough people repeat and repeat and repeat, and they are exposed, they are exposed, they are exposed, there is only a matter of time before that majority who are exposed to the information begins to believe it without question, without doubt. And this causes, the turmoil that we're experiencing, the unsettled feelings, the unresolved pain that we have dealt with ourselves. Most of us have dealt with sexual abuse. And there's a trigger. There's triggers that the media knows, has studied the human behavior. They have studied us enough to know that whatever they put out into our faces, we are quick to respond. And I want to just give a couple things that we did respond to. I want to give a couple of, I guess, like every time we turn on the news or something and we see stories in the media, what triggers us the most as a melanated race? I just want to know, like, what makes the whole of us, the whole population of melanated beings, become so active in certain things that is put out in the media. Now, I'm trying to figure out, when do we stop being manipulated? When do we realize that when a story is put out, that it is deliberately made for our reaction? It's put out there so that our energy levels go through the roof. We begin to zone in on this issue. R. Kelly is an example, because we were not thinking about R. Kelly before Lifetime put this on the air. And now all of a sudden, black people want to be holier than thou. They want to be judging, and they want to be emotional, and they want to just express all these hate feelings about R. Kelly. I'm just as disappointed in R. Kelly as the next person. Don't get it twisted. Have been for a while, but I did not feel it necessary for a docu-series. I just did not. I don't care. You handle that in private, just like it happened in private. There's a lot of unsolved issues going on in every black home. There's a lot of perverted things happening to children every day on a major scale, including the Catholic Church. I don't see Lifetime putting any type of series on about these priests, about Weinstein, who just got off, by the way. Judge just dismissed his accusations and of sexual misconduct with one of the women. I think it's Ashley Judd or someone like this. I don't know. This Me Too movement is getting a little bit out of control. Now, I'm a woman myself. I do not take away from any of these women's experiences. I totally believe that it happened to them. I really do. And in some terms, you have to put this out on Front Street. You have to get it out in the public. You have to. I don't know. I just feel like, once again, it is the white media who chooses and determines what is important to melanated people. And this is bothering me. We are triggered by murders of black men, police brutality. We're triggered. And it has to be in our DNA of why we're triggered by these things, because other races are not even moved by this. I believe if they were shooting down Asian men like at the rate that they do black men, maybe the Asian race would be feeling triggered. You know what I mean? But they don't have any reason to be triggered because this is not constantly bombarded in their face. This is not constantly being displayed on TV, on social media, constant feedback, constant news feeds about these innocent, unarmed black men being just murdered senselessly by law enforcement. There's no mini-series on that. There's no docu-series on that. I mean, as melanated people, we need to figure out something. Seriously, we need to figure out a code as to which issues do we cover? Which issues do we talk about? Which issues do we find more pertinent for the liberation of our people? Because sitting talking about R. Kelly on every video on what he's done when we already know, it's just a waste of time for me. It's just a waste. If nobody's going to do anything to R. Kelly, he's not facing any criminal charges for his mistreatment of these women, and black women. And we all know that, we're also triggered by the mistreatment of black women. We're mistreated by violence on a black woman. Look at the Sandra Bland. There's more missing black women in the world. In Washington, D.C., they're going at the highest rate missing. And we know that the sex trafficking is very, very lucrative. And most women of color are victims of this. I don't see a docuseries 1, 2, and 3. I don't see it. We are attracted to the bum fights on World Star Hip Hop. We're triggered by someone getting knocked out cold. We're triggered by lynchings, hangings. Black people, melanated beings, we're also triggered by the justice systems, the decisions to sentence our men for minute offenses to 90 years and better, 50 years and better for very small crimes compared to their white male counterparts. So that is a very serious trigger for us. Another trigger that we're often responding and reacting to is the white privilege, the so-called white insecurity. We are triggered by that. And we know that it exists. My thing is, why do we keep responding? Why do we keep replying to it? Why do we keep explaining that it's not right? Why do we keep telling white people how to be moral? Like, at some point, we just have to shut up. We have to shut up, stop responding, stop even showing them that we care. Because it seems as long as we are reacting and we're crying, we're upset, we are, demanding this and demanding that, it seems that they continuously bombard us with the exact things that we are upset about, the exact things that bother us to a cellular level. Our DNA is like almost automatically triggered when we see these type of behaviors being committed against our own people. I think that the DNA remembers, and I think that this is why on such a massive scale we are so quick to attack each other, kill each other. We don't support each other. Things like this is a type of PTSD that we are all experiencing on a global scale, and we are not even aware. The barbecue Beckys, just the people who, white folks that's calling police for no reasons on black people. It's like they thrive on our discomfort, our pain is something that they need to survive. And I know that sounds very far-fetched, but it's not. It's obvious if you look deeper into the world dynamics and how this structural system has been designed against melanated people. So once again, we're triggered. We're being triggered. And I just told you the key triggers that we must prepare ourselves for. We must think ahead. We must play our chess game on the fact that we know what triggers us on a massive scale, and so do they. They are dead set on repeating and repeating and repeating these behaviors that trigger us. When I look back in history, and I mean 20s, it's like we were saying the same exact things. We were responding to the same exact things. We were being triggered by the same exact things. And now new generations are emerging, and they are also becoming exposed to these type of emotional and mental triggers. So let's definitely keep that in mind, guys. Please be a critical thinker when it comes to the media, when it comes to the stories that they're putting out, when it comes to just the details, the facts, the memes that tell you so-called truths. Please just do your research. Verify that they're true. Verify that they're factual. Understand that, there is a lot on the line in this moment, in this time. 2019 should be, that number that tells you, like, we're getting close to the boiling point. We are becoming a society of individualistic, self-absorbed, selfish beings. We don't communicate. We don't support each other. We don't help each other. And I just think that the more media, the more technology, the less humans we are becoming. Okay, the entertainment industry, it is a low vibration. Very low vibration. So if you are just absorbed watching TV 20 hours a day, you're not really thinking on your own. Think about it. You are getting input from an outside source. You're not thinking on your own when you're watching hours of cable. You're actually allowing a program to enter your mind and control that. It's a program. That's why it's called a television program. You are actually literally being programmed. So please be cautious of what your intake is with this media. I touched a lot about the dynamics of just media in the state of the melanated family, the effects that, entertainment and news and different media sources have on melanated bodies. So I want us to start beginning to connect and being more open to our ancestors, and we need to be open to them. We need to allow them to help us on our spiritual shift. So in 2019, one of my biggest goals has been to reconnect to my ancestral lineage. I have been doing a lot of research concerning my ancestors, those whose very blood is flowing through my veins. I've been feeling a very deep connection to those who have made it possible for me to be alive and breathing. And I want you to be open about that. I'm not telling you to get rid of your Jesus. I'm not telling you to get rid of your Muhammad. I just want us to be logical about the reality of our ancestors and the fact that DNA never forgets. And I know that it's hard for us to readjust our thinking when it comes to this. It's kind of like a spookism that has happened when we begin to talk about our ancestors and what they did in the past, and they're no longer here, but we can still connect and feel their presence. And I know that you can I know that you feel the presence of either grandma, someone you was close to, even if you're unaware of it. So please be open. Please stop allowing this society to dictate our own spirituality, our nature, our natural inclinations, our natural abilities to tap into our higher selves. So there's zero tolerance for low vibes this year. And there's no accidents this year. I'm staying open to any signs, any subtle cues that are left for me. I have been tapping into that part of my melanin magic, and I am finding that it is very powerful once you understand how it works. And if you have any questions about this, please leave me a comment. Just tapping in and trying to get the key to the connections and understanding that you are ultimately in control. Okay. So yeah, zero tolerance. The next generation of truth seekers, we must leave them the truth behind. I plan on making sure that it's undeniable when someone is speaking fake history, and there's a question about the validity of the facts. We as melanated beings must leave behind for our next generation of learners a sort of blueprint that kind of lets them know when our history is being manipulated, when it's being whitewashed and altered, and letting them understand that just because they remake one of our stories about one of our ancestors, our great ancestors who sacrificed and suffered, they put it on TV or the big screen, and they oftentimes whitewash the whole film. We must teach our kids that this is going to happen. Until we own our own media stations, until we are able to tell our own stories, this is going to happen with us. We have to just come to reality with that. When we see it, we are no longer triggered by it because we already expected it. That is the best way to deal with something when you already know the behavior of these people. We have seen it over and over and over. How many times do we need to repeat the things that we've already seen over the past 400 plus years with this white power structure? All right. I just feel like there's a collapse in morality when it comes to the media. There's no morals. There's no limits to what they do to people, how they ostracize people, how they judge people, how they basically make you guilty before you're even found in a court of law. You don't even have your right to plead your case before you are guilty in media. And we all have seen the discrepancy between when they cover stories of black men and women compared to other races, and that person is the perpetrator. So, I just want us to adjust. Let's get out of this cognitive dissonance that we have so dived into, and it's like we cannot get out. We cannot get out. And I don't know what else to say about that other than, be critical. Criticize everything. I mean, everything that goes on TV is not to be absorbed and taken as law. All right. With that being said, I'm going to move on to the black experience in love. And I just have a few little things I wanted to mention about that. I started talking about it. But I just want media to show more positive images of the black man and woman in love, more love stories. It's like it's a deliberate, basically, deliberate practice of the media moguls and people who produce film for cable networks. I just think that it's like an unspoken code for white people to understand that there will be no positive black men loving their families, taking care of their families. There will be no loving black families shown on TV. And just because of this reason we are not seeing it, we as a society thinks it does not exist, thus putting us in a mental state of there are no positive black families, no black lovers who are so passionately in love, that's been married for 50 plus years, who have been through their ups and downs, who have, raised successful children. Let's bring our image back to the forefront. This is very critical in our time. And I can't stress that enough. Like, I want to see more positive images of black love. Period. Okay? The psychological effects behind not seeing it is very serious. But no one has the compassion to understand it. As the last time I checked, melanated people do not own any media companies. And shout out to those who do independent film, those who are telling our stories. We just don't have those major platforms to be able to reach our people on a massive scale. One of my goals is to change that. So we need to remember these things and prepare ourselves. Just prepare ourselves for this new era, this unstable, chaotic, uncertain, self-absorbed society in 2019. Please don't become it. Let's resist it. Let's try to step outside of ourselves for a little bit and to understand what we're facing on a massive scale. And like I said before, we need to unplug. If we need to unplug, we need to unplug. All right. So any black female, melanated females out there, if you are going through a very challenging relationship, I would definitely like for you to reach out to me. I want you to be able to gather a different perspective. So if you reach out to me, I am offering free consultations on that. You can email me at poeticmentor@gmail.com. Just reach out. Let me know, that you want to speak, and I will definitely reach out, call. We can FaceTime. We can talk on the phone. But I definitely want to hear about your individual experiences dealing with black men. I want to know what issues you're facing currently and what's hindering your growth with this person. All right. So, if you've been in a relationship for a long time and you're missing your destiny, you feel like you're not growing, you're with someone on low vibration, you're with someone who is unequally yoked, please do not, I repeat, ignore this fact, because you know when you have an empty feeling. You know when you're not satisfied. You know when you're unfulfilled and you feel like you have to force this person to treat you a certain way or to satisfy you, and you have to keep repeating yourself about how you're not getting something from this person, and they just constantly promise and they never deliver. I need you to be aware. I need you to understand this is part of that denial that you're in, and you're not realizing your own true potential. You're not understanding that you are meant to be loved a certain specific way by a certain specific person. So please reach out to me, Melanated Queens. I will be more than happy to give you some advice, give you some kind of insight about how to further handle your frustration in your current relationships. I'm doing that just so we can promote positive, healthy Black love. All right. Moving right along, this is we're getting close to the end, and I just wanted to make sure that today I put something out there for the family. Thank you guys for just supporting me, following me. Like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Go follow me on Asada Shavaje, Poet of the New Age, on Facebook, Majestica Melanin on Instagram, and Protect My Melanin on Instagram as well. Artists, I need you to contact me through My Loud Whispers Media. You can hit me on Twitter. You can hit me on YouTube. I, once again, am helping up-and-coming artists, independent artists, particularly conscious rap, conscious singers, conscious musicians who are bringing back the positive nature in our music, in hip-hop. And I want to start something new on this podcast. I want to offer a list of rising conscious rappers and musicians who you need to go check out, you need to support. And I will try to do this often because I just think there's a huge need for a platform to honor and to promote and to acknowledge our lyrically conscious rappers who are paving the way again. Those Commons and those Kendrick Lamars and back in the day consciousness. Don't let me go way back, because I'll bring up X-Clan and I'll bring up Queen Latifah and all these conscious rappers that I grew up with. KRS-One. I don't even have to go through it, but I want to bring in the 2019. They've been in the game for about 5-6 years or more, doing this work in the music world, getting no love, getting no acknowledgement, getting nothing, because we are stuck on a low frequency as music lovers, that we are more enthralled in the sexual content. We're more involved in the violent content of our music, and it has no substance. And this is what hip hop is missing, been missing, will always be missing, and until it returns, we're not listening to hip hop currently. I'm sorry. So I will give you a list of the top 5 consciously lyrically musicians out today, and I want to give them a shout out because I just feel like we need them. I'm pretty sure there's more, but these are the 5 that I have come across and that they really moved me, and just showing me that there are people, new up and coming artists who are definitely building the music back up with the consciousness. So the first artist I want to acknowledge is Kambata. Kambata, you can find his music normally in the beginning of Black Magic 363's videos on YouTube. But I did get to meet him. He signed my CD. But I just love his single called Holy Ghost. So please look up Kambata. He is one of the top artists, consciously, lyrically, intact, that I feel needs the mention. And I have him at number 1. And we're going to keep going down the list. The next one is the Twin album. So big ups to Red Pill, Blue Pill on the Twin album this year. Well, they dropped it last year. I was able to purchase that at one of the conferences. And Red Pill, thank you for signing my CD. I love every song on there. If you guys have not copped the Twin album, please do. These brothers are on a whole nother level. They are responsible for the rise in consciousness. They have been putting in work for, I know, at least over 20 years. I just feel like they needed the big shout out. So big ups to the Twin album. That's number 2. Number 3, I wanted to bring in a group called Maverick and Malachi from Global Faction. And they're just a combo. They're from the UK, 2 brothers. And they use beatboxing and conscious lyrics to bring us just some fire music. I love them. They talk about the spirituality, the politics, and the positivity that needs to be spoken into the conscious community, back into hip-hop. Another artist, conscious, is a female MC. She seems like she's part of a group in Global Faction. She's an artist, but she calls herself Amy True. She is with a brother named Logic. So Logic and Amy True, they have a video called Free Nigga, and I really enjoyed that. Definitely. So how many have I said? 3, 4. So, there's a sister right there that is actually spitting fire. I just came across them and I just feel like they need a shout out. So shout out to these top conscious musicians who are up and coming independent artists doing the work. Please continue to do that work, guys. And the last person I want to mention is Chance the Rapper. Now, I know that there's some big things that happen with Chance the Rapper, but the one reason I mention him is because he is still independent. He has not signed to any major record labels. And I think that is a choice. And I think that all independent artists should follow Chance the Rapper's lead on that. I'm not sure what he did specifically, but he is able to be successful in his music and his art, and at the same time giving back to his community in Chicago. And I just commend him for that. So there is your top 5 lyrically conscious musicians who have made an impact on me. And I look forward to, seeking out and finding and reviewing more of our conscious musicians who are making a way for, the next generation to understand that music is very, very powerful. And it can either make or break a generation. So if you know any conscious rappers out there, guys, please put it in the comments. I will check them out and I will put them on the next top list when I review more conscious musicians who are independent coming up in this game. That's not often fair towards them. Alright, so once again, I am Majestica Melanin, and before I go, I'm going to also give you 3 books that you need to go read. Remember, Dark Matter Readings, we're always touching on books that can transform your life. And I always want to leave that information that, if you are in the bookstore, you're searching online for some excellent readers, books that will change your life. Please, the first book that I want you to go and get is called What Must Be Done by Tika Kilimanjaro, PhD, and Yara Anib Saba. What Must Be Done. Please get this book, ladies and gentlemen. It is very powerful. It's basically explaining the black survivors, and how we accept this reality that we find ourselves in. Hundreds of millions of innocents were murdered and nothing has stopped it. It's basically laying out what must be done. We're wasting too much time. We're doing everything, it seems, for nothing. Our children are losing their inheritance and their birthrights. And we sit around doing absolutely nothing but complaining. And we need to change it. So this book is powerful for that reason. The next book is for your health. It's called Alkaline Herbal Medicine, Reverse Disease and Heal the Electric Body by Akil Anais. That's AQIYLANIYS. Please grab this, guys. It shows you specific herbs, like, let's see. There's specific herbs, burdock root, that heals, it's like a blood cleanser, anti-inflammatory, and it's basically telling you what each of these herbs do. Bladderwrack. I just purchased me some of this bladderwrack. Bladderwrack is supposed to be very, very potent for the melanated body. It helps in everything. It's a powerful antioxidant. It lowers the risk of diseases that has to do with estrogen, your skin. It helps you with aging, anti-tumor properties, and most of the time it's used just as an iodine supplement. But it's from the Pacific Ocean, the North Sea, Baltic Sea. This type of herb you cannot just go in the store and find, so it's very powerful. And the interesting thing about bladderwrack is that the Japanese intake of iodine is 1,000 to 3,000 mcg per day without any side effects. So if the Japanese are taking this supplement for iodine without any side effects, and it's actually healing diseases, supports you with cholesterols and breaking down the enzymes that is bad for you, thyroid deficiencies. Very powerful root. But once again, this book, Alkaline Herbal Medicine, look it up. All right. And the last book, of course, is called The Miseducation of the Negro. I'm sure that many of us heard of this book, but we have yet to go pick it up and read it. It was written in 1933 by Carter G. Woodson. And it's just basically talking about African Americans of this day and how we're being culturally indoctrinated, rather than taught about our own history. And it's, we're becoming dependent, and we seek out our knowledge in inferior places. And this book just basically challenges the reader to become critical thinkers, to do it for ourselves, regardless of what we've been taught in the education public school system. So that is The Miseducation of the Negro, Carter Goodwin Woodson. Please cop that book, ladies and gentlemen. This is the conclusion of Dark Matter readings. My apologies on the late post. Again, I am Majestica Melanin. You are tuned in to New Birth Energy via Dark Matter Readings. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, join. Artists, please reach out. My Loud Whisperers Media. I want everyone to remember to speak life, be life, and always protect your melanin. And I'm out.